Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Anything Goes. And I want to start this episode by saying thank you from the bottom of, I feel like, our heart.
Yeah.
You know, Michelle is back. She's obviously in the title, and I had promised that we would do both episodes back to back. I honestly don't know how long. I didn't even ask you how long we have, because I'm like, this could be a Joe Rogan episode. No, I know you will have to go, but thank you from the bottom, definitely of my heart, because the episode number 1, so sharing my DV story, and Michelle also sharing hers on that episode, has gone bananas, which is very validating, and it's not terrifying, but it's just a very vulnerable thing to have finally put the story out there and taken some ownership of advocacy with my own story, and the response has been really beautiful. So I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's a very scary thing to do, to speak up and to use your voice and to put yourself in the public arena in this arena. And so it was always something that I was going to do. I actually said to Michelle just then off mic, I said, you know, the funniest thing is he never thought I would. And I love that he underestimated me. And I know for so many women out there, in fact, the most devastating thing that I have occurred essentially in the last 24 hours since I've really shared it, and the real, is the disclosures, which I was fully prepared for.
Yeah.
And of women saying, you know, and who have also gotten out, but who are still trapped in the silence. And just saying thank you for using your voice, because it feels validating for me. So we're going to dive into this episode now. It's a very big one, and thank you so much for being back, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
This episode is one I am most, I don't know, like excited. I feel like saying excited, it's the wrong word, but it's the right word, because I feel like this is the area most unbelievably misunderstood and fucked, if I can use that word, in this process. And we are fully going all the way in on the court system, what this looks like, why so many perpetrators don't get, I'm going to tell my side of the story, why I have chosen not yet, I'm not putting a full stop on that, to charge criminally. But when you know, and I know this is kind of your zone of genius.
Because my jam.
This is your jam, because you are a court, what is
specialist.
A court specialist.
So I support people through the process, through the magistrate's court, the family court, whatever it might be.
Which is huge, energetically, emotionally.
It is.
You've also been through it.
Yes.
So let's start there. Let's start there.
All of them. So for me, I ended up in the criminal court, the magistrate's court, in relation to a domestic violence order several times, and the district court criminally, and also through the family court. So
what was so I got my protection order. Is that magistrate's court?
Yeah. So the protection order is your domestic violence order, which most people are familiar with.
Yeah.
That's through the magistrate's court.
Right. And that itself was a really horrible, toxic, violent, in essence, like, and I use that word. I remember sitting, we said a few things off camera, but to say it all on camera, but I had said to Michelle off camera, I said, I remember sitting with the court experts, like the support workers, essentially, that sit with you when you go in when it's a DV order, and the police prosecutor, so the lawyer that was a police prosecutor, and saying to them, I'm like, this is DV. You being dragged through this process, the mentions, the hearings, him delaying it over and over. He's playing you. He's playing the courts. And, you know, you feel like it's just you in the moment because you don't know every other woman's story. You're not in that courtroom. So I heard screaming and wailing and just it is nightmare stuff in that DV section, because you are separated. I was anyway.
Yeah.
When you have a protection order, everyone, just so you know, in case women do want to pursue this and they are terrified to see their perpetrator. My experience in the Brisbane, was it Brisbane? No, it's Gold Coast, Southport. Yeah, Magistrates Court, was I would present to court. I could go upstairs and present into the
safe room.
So I was then led into the safe room, and what that is just an area for women to be away from the person that they're in court with who has generally been violent towards them. And so you're in this safe area. There's a lot of support workers around you. Someone will always come and sit with you and talk to you. Yeah. And I remember, is that where you go?
Yeah, I do that privately.
Yeah.
I go in with my clients. Yeah.
Which would be so nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I had best friends. So I'm so lucky. Katie, who does the podcast.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. She would come in with me. But I also always had someone he didn't know connected to me that would stand outside the court before my hearing to let me know if he had presented. And was he waiting outside the court, which did happen, I think, 2 times. And so they would text and say, hey, he's here. And it was someone, and I'm not going to say who, but it was someone that he didn't know. And so they would text and say, he's waiting for you outside the court.
And can I just make comment on that? The fact that you have to do that to protect yourself in itself is a concern.
Yep.
And another note, not every courthouse has a safe room.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have kept going if I didn't have that room because I felt safe.
Southport has a really great space, but they're not all like that.
Yeah, wow. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out on my order as well was that because a few people replied and said, oh, I had a police prosecution. So the way that it works is you can either do in DV anyway, in my experience, was that I could have done a private application.
Correct.
Or you have a police application. Yeah. I presented to the police. They took my word for it. I had undeniable evidence, so it was a police application. So what then occurred was it was police, Queensland Police versus Trent Woolley.
Correct.
So it was police. Now, I actually didn't have to go to court then. The police prosecution said, look, it's us against him. You don't actually even have to present. However, because it was my life and it was my story and it just felt very odd to me to not, and I wanted to be kept abreast of the situation, I did present every single time.
Yeah.
And I was told, and this could be wrong, maybe they shouldn't have, maybe they should have, but I was told by police prosecution it helps.
For you
present.
To go, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, okay. Because I was like, I feel bad saying that because there's some, and I also want to say if you're a woman that doesn't want to and it is too scary or whatever, like that's okay as well. But I will say in my experience, I do feel like it felt better for me to be there, even though it was a horrific situation.
Yeah, I think it's empowering. And most women that I work with, we go and it does empower them.
Yeah,
so.
I felt empowered in the end. Now, I do want to unpack, if we can, your actual story and experience with actually criminally charging your ex.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things to point out, and definitely for me, is going through all of these systems, whether it be the criminal system, the magistrates with the DVO, the family court, whatever court system you're going through, it's another form of abuse.
Yes.
Not only with the perpetrator being able to use it as a form of abuse, but I genuinely believe the system further traumatises victim survivors every day.
It absolutely does.
We are being abused again by the very system that is supposed to protect us.
Yes.
And for people that do follow me and know me, I go on a lot about systems abuse as the actual system abusing us. It is not set up to protect us, despite what people might believe. And there is way too much power within the system for the perpetrator.
Yes.
So my journey was a very, very difficult one, as is the journey for most people. And often people say to me, why did you bother? Because, and we'll talk about the outcomes shortly, I think it was so important for me to hold that person accountable in the public arena, not just for myself, my children and my family, but for everybody else. So I had in my head that it was super important for me to prove just how bad the system is and to also show other women the importance of going that far to empower them to do the same.
Yeah, and I can sit here as a woman that has chosen to not go down the criminal path yet.
I love that you say yet.
Yet. That it is very empowering because I'm like, oh, you are a pillar of possibility, right? Like you have done it. And although I think his sentence was laughable, it really, I suppose, doesn't become about that.
It was not about what the outcome. So the system for me, I mean, he was first arrested for the purpose of criminal charges in August 2020. And he was not convicted until 2024. And he was not sentenced till 2025 to paint a picture of what that looks like and the journey that I went on throughout that period. And this is why people say to me, why did you bother?
Far out.
I bothered because accountability is the only way for us to change what's happening in our homes, in our society and in our country and in the world in relation to domestic and family violence.
Yeah.
So my case is now on record. It also shows just how poor the system is.
See, I hear that, and I hope if you're listening, you understand, you can, because it's not just like, so they're dates you just gave, but that's 5 years of abuse of your life, but of being dragged through a court system, of having the story hanging over you that is unfinished ultimately, because you're then back in the process of trying to put a full stop on this in essence, and being in the courts just for the violence restraining order, knowing what that looks like, how upsetting, stressful, traumatizing, abusive it can be. Why would a woman?
Yeah, the big question. Look, I think the system needs to change. I mean, we're not going to change it overnight. That's not going to happen. The system hasn't caught up with domestic and family violence. I mean, no way in any place in this world should a victim, survivor of domestic and family violence be dragged through what I was. It just shouldn't happen. And knowing, like with my story, it's really clear to see why women don't report. It's really clear to see why they don't bother. Why would anyone want to be dragged through the amount of time in that system? And there's times when I get up and go, you know, I mean, his outcome, excuse me, he got a 3-year sentence to be served for jail. Like he was sentenced to jail for 3 years to only serve 4 months. So he's currently now walking the streets on a suspended jail sentence. So, okay, it does give me I suppose I get a little bit of reassurance that if he does anything again, he's going back to jail. But I went through my own form of invisible prison, which I talk about a lot, throughout this entire period of, 4 to 5 years for him to get 4 months in jail. And what's worse about that is what rehabilitation was he provided while he was in jail to ensure that he doesn't go on to do that very thing to somebody else.
Someone asked me that. I got asked that question in my DMs a few times. Someone said, do I believe in, because they're obviously women need to know this man's name. And I said, that's why I'm telling my story now, because, I don't believe, he is still out there living his normal life, stripping. His job is working with women every single day. That's his job, right? And so he's a danger. And there's been so many more disclosures that women have actually come forward because I shared his name and said, oh, me too. Actually, he was really sexually violent towards me, actually. So I am also starting to gather stories to be well, a group case would be far stronger than an individual one. And so for me, when women ask me the question though, this is where I want to send them to be you just why haven't you charged him yet? I'm such an easy fucking thing to say or ask, and I understand, but you've got no idea of how cooked, abusive, traumatizing and broken the system is. And even though there is undeniable evidence, he would get he'll be charged, he would be arrested, etc. I honestly still believe, because I know how bad your story is, I've heard other women have come forward, incredibly brave women, sharing how they also then pursued criminally and their exes, violent exes, walked away with a slap on the wrist. Yeah. And it was 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in the court system. And I'm I want to go have my babies. I want to go be happy. I want to focus on the now love of my life. I don't want to pull myself. It's not a full stop, But like my thing is, why would I pull myself back into that court system?
Why? So look, I think one of the most important things for women to be aware of is I didn't spend 4 to 5 years consumed fully with that.
That's
So I want everyone to be really aware of, and one of the things I talk to women about every single day is that I learnt some really good strategies about going through the system but living in the moment. And I think it's really important to be aware that it did not consume me. I did not let it consume me. I went, okay, I have a hearing. The police and the DPP handled it extremely well. So mine was obviously indicted to the district court because of the seriousness of the charges, and they were fantastic. So I do want to point out that when it got to that point of being indicted and it was out of the local court system that most people know it as, it went to the district court, and they were amazing, like incredible. So I do want to reassure people that it does get to a point in the court system where you can sort of go, they've got it and I trust you. And I did get to that point. So I think that's a really big thing to distinguish, is that when you're in the local court and they're rolling cases through back to back, and you've got a different duty lawyer and you've got a different person talking to you every day and a different support worker, is very different than when it gets to the district court and you have a team.
Right.
And you have
like
the same solicitor and the same barrister, and you have the same person that is fighting your case, is very, very different. So there's something to distinguish, particularly for people that are considering going through that system. Once you get to an indictable charge, and we're talking a strangulation in my case that made that indictable, it's really important to know that they're different systems and that there is a different level of support. And I had a great service through the district court. But I also didn't let it consume me. And I think where I come in for women now is I keep them from being consumed with it.
Yeah.
So I learnt to live in the moment. We all know that if we think too much about the past or we think too much about the future, it robs us of the present. And I think we've all heard that.
Yeah.
I learnt to do that really, really well.
And do you feel like it honestly didn't impact the rest of your life whilst you were in that process?
It definitely did not.
Really
throughout going through that process, I rebuilt my life, and people look at me now and go, oh my gosh, you're amazing, you're doing all this stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to validate everybody here listening today, and I'm very raw and very honest. There were days I couldn't get out of bed in the early days. There were days where I was so frightened that I checked the windows, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. I checked the windows were closed, and that piece of dowel was behind those windows, and the windows were locked, and I'm going to probably get a bit teary.
I'm crying,
4 or 5 times before I could fall asleep. So people look at me and go, you're so brave and you're so tough. And, people have looked at me and gone, how do you, you're so strong. I am strong, but we're all strong.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we put in place that can keep us in that place of strength. Oh my gosh, there were nights I could not sleep. There were nights when I would hear a noise and I would freak out, and I would be so scared that I wouldn't get up to check what the noise was. I would be frozen in my bed in the past 4 years. And a perfect example was probably 2 months ago. I heard this mega bang, and it sounded like an explosion or a gunshot or something, and I couldn't get out of bed to check it.
Yeah.
And we're talking 2 months. We're not talking to you.
This is the other day.
It turned out to be that I laid in bed going, I can't move. I can't get up and check. I don't know what that was. And it turned out to be eventually I did get up and check after an hour or two. And I laid in bed completely frozen. And it turned out to be somebody had burnt a car out down the road and it exploded like a few hundred meters from my house. So it was a legitimate thing that occurred.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that, came up in my head. But I just want to say to everybody listening, that still happens to me. It still happens where I go, oh my gosh. I mean, a few weeks ago, to give something very current, I was driving down the highway and my tyre indicator came on in my car. And we're talking weeks, guys. And I went, oh, my tyre's going flat. It's a brand new car, by the way. And I went, that's really weird. Kind of ignored it and went, I'll check my tyres. I got to the police station where I was actually there to support a client in reporting something, drove from there to the pavilion at Robina to stop and have lunch, and I came out and my tyre was flat. And I went, oh, flat tyre, that's weird. This lovely gentleman helped me change the tyre, fantastic. Had the tyre changed and was going another 4 kilometres, got out of the car and another tyre was flat. Turned out to be I had 3 screws in my 2 back tyres that looked quite deliberately placed, and that's been reported to police. So I just want to say that it doesn't really ever for me go away. But I have to learn to go, and that's been a police report. Probably never going to find out what happened, but 3 screws in 2 tyres, pretty suspicious, and they were the same screw. So I just want to say that people look at me and go, you've got it all together. Does it ever really go away? Or is it something that we learn
to live with,
to manage? I say manage because I don't just live with it. I was straight back at that police station. I have learnt to manage it. And I think it's really important that that's where our support networks come in.
Can I say on this, like, because I get asked this as well, and I felt that emotion so much then because A, it's horrific, but B, it's so lived as well.
Yeah.
And when you said that, because I get asked this often, do I still feel safe? Yes, because I am blessed. Again, I'm not blessed. I don't like the word lucky, that I have a very, very muscular, large, handsome, protective Maori.
Wow, lucky you.
By
This is
my
not a
side.
dating podcast, but
I know. Right, but it's a serious
great.
thing. Like,
It's
people go, do I feel
actually true.
safe? I didn't. I slept with 2 knives until Ryan came along, and then he absolutely wouldn't let me, and I didn't have to, because he said if he comes, I pray the day I see him. And I worry for Trent now. I don't worry for me. I actually worry for Trent.
And I love that.
Like, I genuinely am like, fuck if he tried. However, Ryan occasionally he came back. So then Ryan also came back from work because he was like, I don't like being away for 10 days at a time. That it just didn't feel good for him anymore. Lots of reasons. We're about to start a family.
I love that.
But that was a huge thing for him and I. In those 10 days, and even this week, obviously sharing my story, I know I've aggravated him.
Yes.
I've aggravated him. And I've also learned that Instagram has brilliantly deleted his personal and business page, which is better than a fucking court hearing for me. Honestly, I don't know what happened. Actually wasn't me. I wish it was. But lots of women were like, oh, I went looking for him after, like, to block him, after you told your story because I know him or I followed him or whatever. And they were like, it's gone. And then a girl messaged me and said, look, I'd reported his profile several months ago and I just got notified this week they've deleted it for it's violated community guidelines. That's going to have pissed him off beyond reason. Yeah. And he's going to blame me. Good, first of all. But Ryan was then away one night this week and we all went out, like the girls, the besties and I had a dinner and a show that we went to. And the girls were like, you're not safe. Like, when we drop you home, because they know the whole situation and story. They know every
they're
single
correct.
story. Correct. And
they're
so
correct.
I said, no, look, it's okay. I'm going to FaceTime Ryan when I walk in the door. But you have to understand these are still the conversations I have to have. And I said, I'll be FaceTiming Ryan when I walk in the door. So if anything happens, he will call the police. And they were like, Anna, this is fucking fucked. And they said, well, we're going to walk in with you. We'll check the whole house. We'll check the doors. And that's when you said the dowel on the windows, that's what made me cry because I'm like, that's my whole house.
Yeah.
Even though I've got Ryan, even though he will kill him, literally, unfortunately, sorry, Trent, but that would occur, like, Ryan still has put parameters in that, like, there's dowel in the doors and the windows. My best friends had to come in and they checked under the beds in every wardrobe. This was this week.
It's great, friends.
Because, yeah, correct.
You know what? They're correct in the sense that when we pursue these things through the court, so one of the highest risk times is going through the court system because we agitate it. 100%, you're correct.
And because they have nothing to lose.
Telling your story publicly online. Correct.
My thing with it, I believe, because, like, I remember at the time, like, I've always said, like, Trent honestly just does need a smack in the face, and I don't condone violence, but sometimes people just need, like, smacks in the face, like punches in the face. But he'd always said to me, he was like, oh, I've never even been in a fight, I've never been hit, and yet he obliterated my face. So he could hit, but he's never been hit. But my thing with it is when I look at him, I do genuinely, and I mean this, like I see a weak little boy. I see a wounded, weak piece of shit. But I also, so people like, you know, those that are close to him that still don't understand the narcissism mask, etc., would be like, he can't hurt you. He almost killed me, so he can absolutely hurt me. But it's not the fear of, could he come and physically harm me now? It's so beyond that. It's like when you publicly humiliate and publicly tell your story, people like that feel like they have nothing to lose. And that's the danger. And this is what I want people to understand.
Yeah.
That's the danger in telling your story.
100%. When I first publicly told my story last year with news.com, thank you very much.
Gosh, that's so
I did
recent.
I think it was a 4-part with news.com. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. And I had an absolute incredible reporter, Shannon Malloy, who was fantastic. He was so trauma informed and he checked in on me. He told me when they would go out. He asked me if I needed anything from them. He explained the process. He explained that they would monitor for trolls and all that kind of stuff. And my perpetrator was named.
Good.
I named him in those articles. And it was terrifying. And it was more terrifying than the court process for me. And the
100%.
reason why it was more terrifying is because you can't name a perpetrator, a victim in Queensland without their permission. So I had to give permission to be named. So I had to say, yes, I was happy for myself to be named. And whereas when they report on a perpetrator in Queensland, and I think some of the other states have followed suit and they're doing the same thing, but I'm not totally sure, they actually have to get your permission. So they can report that there's a perpetrator of DV, but in the articles they can't report the victim.
His name.
No, your name.
Your name. Okay. Do they name the perpetrator?
Yeah, they can name the perpetrator
Okay,
and say
good.
this person's been, charged with DV or whatever it might be, but they protect the victim, obviously, and identifying the victim. So it was really scary and it was terrifying because I went, he's just had photos of him taken outside the courthouse, and they're online, and it was absolutely terrifying because I went, I've just agitated, and again, I shouldn't even say I have, and we have said it a few times. No, they have.
They have.
They have. We've just brought it to light.
We've just told our story.
We've just told the truth about the people that have done the things. And it's very similar when you're going through the court system, and a few people said to me, but if he goes to jail and he loses all of this stuff and he loses his reputation and he loses his job and he loses his home or whatever it might be, he's got nothing to lose. So I think that's a really important point that you made. And I did have to weigh that up. But at the same time, I weighed that up with the fact that I needed to tell my story, and I needed to tell it not just for me, although it was very empowering, but also for my children who then could say, actually, this was never okay. So my daughters and my sons needed to see from different sides that it was never okay. It was never okay to keep it let's keep it behind closed doors. And I've now, I look at my children and go, that was the best thing that I could ever given my children.
Yeah.
Was to know just how much it was never okay.
I would agree with that.
Never okay.
Good job, Mama.
And I look at them now and I have the strongest women that I have raised. And they're now, 20 and 18 and almost 17.
Holy
and my
hell.
sons are 25 and 23 and 13. So on the flip side of that, I have this beautiful 13-year-old coming up who still lives with, these 4 women, which is fantastic for him. I can't wait for him to watch this because he is the most gentle yet masculine man that I am raising. And I just know that one of the best things that I ever did was sharing my story publicly.
Amen. I couldn't agree more.
The best thing ever.
And I'm so proud of you. I always say I get to stand on the shoulders of giants with sharing the story and choosing to. It's not that I'm choosing to be an advocate in the spaces, but when you share your story and you're a public forward-facing figure, you
You are an
inadvertently.
advocate.
Yeah, like I'm an advocate because I'm telling my story and I'm saying,
You
hey,
are.
it's not okay. And you get to have a voice in this story, essentially. You don't have to be shamed into silence.
No. It's not our shame.
No, and you're so good at
It's just not our shame.
Yeah.
And I almost feel
That's
like we're
a journey.
conditioned by society
Yeah.
to be taught in some way that it is, but it's not our shame.
And that's such a beautiful distinction because Ryan and I were even talking about it again the other day. Like I was trying to say to him, you cannot fathom the shame that I felt in the situationship. Like in every way, I don't even call it a relationship. So, you know, for me, it's not our shame.
No.
And yet, for me, I can say I stayed out of shame. I didn't tell the truth to my best friends at the time out of shame. I lied to my mother out of shame. You know, like, so part of the healing journey for me and the process has definitely been recognizing that and knowing that it is not my shame and that, yeah, on the other side of that shame is actual freedom.
And I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I hid it from everybody and I tried to maintain. I had shame around, you know, maintaining the perfect family, you know, the perfect marriage and the perfect family. And I was complicit with him in his narcissistic mask and in maintaining that to the public, and I was. And
Same.
there is a new sense of freedom when you actually talk about it and you actually tell people. It's hard to explain.
Actually, that is what I wanted to tell you. So a huge part of disclosures that has come into my inbox, and I deal with them, everyone. Like I'm you know, connecting them to the right services, etc. Of course, is honestly, I want to say like 50% of them is actually women coming forward for always the first time. But a lot of women starting to actually learn from hearing our stories, saying, oh my God, I actually never even realized I was in a coercive controlling relationship, or I'm actually still in that coercive controlling. And I've listened back to our episode. It's very rare. I never listen back to my own episodes, but I did listen to ours. And it was me, because we were saying it before, when you're in it, when you're in this vortex, it was amazing, and, you know, it was all the things. But
Well, we're just having a conversation.
correct. And you kind of get on with your day. But listening back to your story was unbelievably powerful, even for me, again. And I thought that's what set this off in so many women so healing and so powerfully, because you were sharing how, you know, you were together 20 years and it was insidious almost. And it was the microaggressions of, no, you don't want the white wine, you want the red wine, and ordering the food. And some women would go, oh, I like that. I've got decision fatigue. In a healthy relationship, now I fucking love it if Ryan's like, baby, I got you. Like dinner at 6, I've made the reservation. Stunning. That's healthy.
And I love that.
Yes.
And I like that too.
That is healthy
In the right
masculinity.
space.
Unhealthy, toxic masculinity is coercive control. And no, you're not going to eat that. You're not going to wear that. You know, like Ryan would be like, if I walked out in which I have, I've a G-string and fishnets to go dance in my class and put it online. He's like, you are the sexiest goddess alive. Trent was like, you were a fucking whore. And how
Boom.
dare you
Yeah.
fucking put that on the internet,
Very
you
different.
slut. And punished me for it, horrifically punished me for it. And so very, very different.
That distinguishment is so important. And talking about the decision, I don't always like to make decisions. I actually love when a healthy masculine comes in and says, do you want to go out for breakfast? And I say yes. And he goes, well, what about here at this time? And I go, amazing, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
That is very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
But it's been very big and very, I don't know, important to see and hear and bear witness to these realizations that these women are having, that actually they've been in it for so long that they're not even aware of the coercive control, which is it's a criminal act. Coercive control is now being outlawed in
Thank goodness.
Queensland, which is enormous.
Yeah.
Now, to get that proven in a court of law, I can imagine is hard.
We're actually doing okay in
was like,
Queensland.
how is that going? Yeah.
New South Wales are not having so much luck.
Okay.
But in Queensland, I think I read an article the other day, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've actually had over 50 charges laid in coercive control since May. And I was a little bit like, wow, that's actually really good.
That's
Considering
enormous.
I think New South Wales was around 10. So I think we're doing okay. We're doing okay. And it's going to, I think what it's about is getting the training out there, training frontline responders first, you know, and that can be not just policing. I'm talking about hospitals and all sorts of places, and ensuring that they all understand what it looks like. But I think we're actually doing okay. And I'm not saying that's outstanding, guys. I know there's a lot more out there than that. But I was kind of reassured by the figures, and I don't get reassured by the statistics very often. So that was kind of okay. I went, we're getting there. And it is about training and understanding what it looks like.
100%, because on that also, I've got girlfriends. Like I've got a gorgeous girl that in fact, it was Katie. So when Katie rocked up to my house, I said, I'm fine. When I got back, and she just knew I was not fine. And she rocked up on my doorstep and said, just burst in the door and was like, I know you're lying, because I still hadn't told the whole truth.
I love Katie.
Yeah. And she's like, did he ever hit you? Like, you know, what's happened? And I just had a nervous breakdown, and she said, get in the fucking car. Like, we're going to the police. And I actually was like, no. Like that felt terrifying and traumatizing to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, Katie, I'm safe. It's done. And she was like, it's not fucking done. You're getting in the car. And she literally forced me, I'm grateful for it, into the car and drove me to the police station and walked me in. Now, again, I will never say I'm lucky, but I'm blessed. Yes. Because a lot of women don't have that either. I'm so aware of my privilege, quote unquote. But yes, I'm blessed that I had a best friend that did that for me. And then, you know, when the cop was like, right, we're basically putting in an order that you have to move now because you are very unsafe. He knows where you live. He was texting me death threats whilst I was in the police station. So I remember my phone was going off, and the cop literally said, is that him now? Because it was all very raw and very real, and I'd just come back. And Katie goes, it's him. Like, it's ridiculous. And he said, give me your phone. And I passed the cop my phone. So Trent was threatening the cops, basically. It was hilarious, ultimately, but it was traumatizing and terrifying. But it's hard to go to the cops, right? So what I want to say is coercive control is hard to prove. It's not hard to prove, but it's the insidious stuff, right? Mine was a punch in the face, a strangulation, death threats, theft. Yep. So all in my police protection order. So, but coercive control is harder. So that gives me so much hope. Because coercive control is financial abuse, essentially, where they don't give you access to bank accounts, which is your experience. What are some other things of coercive control, actually?
Coercive control can be, like, I've had recent cases, and this is post-separation kind of stuff, and this is where it can be really hard to identify. I mean, I've got cases before me at the moment where it can be, sign this, you know, consent order for parenting, or otherwise I'm going to stop paying child support.
Yes.
Or I don't want to, or it can be, if you don't let me see my child, despite a court order saying that they can't, I'm not paying you child support. These are big things that people miss. It's not, and even within the relationship, it can be those things like, if you continue to dress like that, I'm not going to give you money this week.
That's really important, that one. I feel like women don't.
Or if you don't give me sex, I'm not going to give you money this week. The financial control, and because you tapped on that, people don't realise just how much finances are used to control women.
I would say it's honestly
one of the most
biggest.
common things I see is around money.
Yeah. I would say it's, honestly, and, you know, again, I unpacked this on the first episode, but one of the reasons, because when Constable Moran said to me, you're lucky, and Katie laughed and said, don't use that word to her. Like, she hates, like,
I hate that
he was
word
like,
too.
she was literally like, don't use that word. And I said, yeah, don't, but he said, it's the money piece. He said, you've gotten out because he said, you know, we're going to help you with the bond because you need to get out now because we can't protect you. He's angry. He's coming. And I said, oh, I won't be eligible. I literally was like, oh, it's okay. Like, I can get myself out, which I'm so fucking grateful for. It doesn't make me lucky. I work my ass off for that. But he ended up saying, like, he goes, oh, but you can get bond support. We can, you know, there's housing support. And I said, it's okay. Thank you so much. I'll leave that for everyone that really needs it. I wouldn't be eligible. But I was so glad to know those services were out there for other women. But Trent didn't have financial control. And that's honestly why I believe it was the one thing he couldn't get control of. He tried because he tried to steal all my money, but it was the one thing he couldn't get control of. And so it was honestly how I got out. It was literally how I got out so fast. In once I made the decision and then the attack had occurred and the escalation, it was having money. It was putting him on a flight back to fucking Perth. It was then moving within 24 hours. I had men in my house packing my whole, I didn't do it, lift a finger, right? It was, I moved in with my best friend because then all the best friends got involved, etc. And they're like, right, we're getting you safe and we're getting you out and you're not going back, because they'd also seen me go back many times. So I'm grateful and so aware of the privilege of that financial aspect, that he couldn't control me financially. But I know that's not the experience.
And I think with coercive control, and why people find it so hard to identify, is when we're talking about this stuff, they don't actually go, if you don't give me sex, I'm not going to give you money. They actually pressure you into sex. And then if you don't oblige, suddenly there's no money in the bank account. So it's not that evident to people that are not trained, I suppose, to see it. And, you know, even in the, you know, up and down look, when they look at you and the way that you're dressed and they roll their eyes, that's coercive control, because I don't want them to look at me like that with disdain, and I don't want him to roll his eyes, so I won't wear that skirt again. That's how it works. And it can be that
insidious.
Oh, my gosh. You can be out with family at a family dinner and you can get a look that only you know what that look means. Only you know what those eyes that are staring into your soul means when you say something. Or the silent little kick under the table that can be passed off as it was an accident. So people to identify it can be so difficult. So they don't, even though they're that things they want or the way that they want you to perform, they don't say it in that way, and that's why people can't see it. So when I was saying, you know, if you don't give me sex, I don't give you money, that's not what they say.
Yeah.
They don't actually text, so there's evidence and say, if you don't have sex with me tonight, I'm not going to give you money to feed the children. Because if they did that, we would have a line outside the police station being able to prove that that's happening. It doesn't work that way, and that's why it's so difficult.
And it's so important for a woman to feel validated in that, because, again, I know there's going to be so many women that are listening to this that are like, actually, this is my living reality right now. You were in a coercive control relationship. And what I want people to understand, and then I'm going to dive back into the court system for a second, is that the statistics are, and I think this all of the time everywhere I go now, is that it's 1 in 4 women by the age of, I don't know that, I forget. Do you know the statistic of DV?
1 in 4, look, so it's...
There's many.
It's apparently 1 in 4 women experience intimate partner violence.
Yeah.
However, I can tell you that I can sit in rooms with women doing talks of 30 women, and I can say, put your hand up here if you've been abused, and I can tell you it's only 100% in that room. So where we're getting documented, that's documented abuse. So please be aware that what you're dealing with, and I don't like to deal with statistics because that is documented. So please be aware of that.
True.
We're dealing with documented DV. I would challenge all of you, everybody listening, the next time you're at dinner with your friends to say, how many of you here have been abused?
And
I do challenge you to ask the
I want
actual
that's
question.
sexual, coercive, or violent. Like, that's
Any
not
form of
an
abuse.
emotional.
Abuse is abuse.
That's what I'm like. Don't just think it is a punch in the face or it's strangulation. Not. It's not. And I've said forever, like, it was the emotional abuse for me that hurt me far, far more. That's what broke me far more than the punch.
I can tell you now, and I can't say a lot on it, but we will be no doubtly unpacking this over the next year. Yeah. I'm currently now involved, legally speaking, with the after effects of financial control 5 years later. So I'm about to embark, and I have embarked on the early stages of another whole battle through the court system in relation to the effect of financial abuse.
Now, I want to point
on me, my own.
Yes, I know what you're saying, and I know why you're being careful with that. And I actually,
it will be before the court.
Correct. And I want to make a point of this, and I respect it so deeply that I want other women to have picked up on that. And another reason why I haven't, and I said this off camera, fully pursued the courts. Criminally, I have pursued the courts. He has a violence restraining order against him. Is because when you're in it, because when I was in the court system, the police prosecution, every single hearing and every single mention said to me, reminded me, make sure you're not putting this on social media. Make sure you're not, just be careful. It's not looked kindly upon by judges when you're out there telling your story before it comes to its conclusion. And I respect that. I do. And I did. I didn't fucking say a thing because I was terrified that then my order would get dropped. However, I note it was the perfect example that obviously there is about to be a court.
And I will tell you, it's in the, to just explain, we've talked about magistrates court.
Yeah.
We've talked about the district court. We've talked a little bit about the family court. This is going into the civil court.
Right. Okay.
So I will now, this will be my fourth, and may even involve the administrative review tribunal, which is in relation to government decisions. So that I can say. So I'm now heading into another whole battle in relation to DV that happened throughout that 20 years that now involves 2 more court systems.
Yes, and you have to be careful.
I need to be careful about the detail and I need to be careful about what that entails, but I can say
which is
I'm
cool.
now 5 years after escaping my situation still dealing with the effects of that. And we will unpack that, no doubtably, in the future. But it's really important that the only reason I'm not sharing detail about it is because it's going to directly be tried in these court processes. And for you, I think the most important thing to remember is one of the best way to explain why it's best to keep some of it a little bit quiet and to keep some of the detail a little bit quiet is because if you choose to pursue criminal charges on your perpetrator before they've pled guilty or been found guilty, you're likely to have a jury.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
If you have a jury, these people are people that may be listening. That's a conflict, obviously, if they've heard all of this stuff being said. So there is an element where it could bring in a little bit of bias or it could bring in a reason for, if jurors happen to be a fan of your podcast and they get called, I mean, it's best if they're not a juror at that point, obviously.
They'd have to kind of do, I'm a conflict of interest.
They should. Yeah. But will they is another matter. So I think it's really important to note that even though you can tell your story quite broadly and that's fine, and no one wants to shut you down telling your story, because I remember speaking to a detective who said to me, I said, how much can I talk about? And he said, it's actually up to you. He said, but just be mindful.
That's what my constable
said. Just be mindful. He said, I'm not going to tell you not to tell your story. He said, but be mindful of the process of a jury.
And that, so just to give context as well on mine, there's 2 elements of my story I've told. Constable Moran, when I've sat with him, there's 7 criminal charges I can take against Trent.
Yep.
So there's 5 more I'm still not, I haven't even discussed.
And talking to me.
Yeah.
I would love to see you do that, but ultimately it's your decision.
There'll be 7 criminal charges, right? And 2 I've spoken, the punch and the strangulation is what I've talked about. Yeah. But there's 5 more. So, so yes, I'm acutely aware because I've also had some DMs and people are like, oh my gosh, could he get you on defamation? I'm like, no, because the idiot would have to prove that he didn't do it. So no, he can't. He could try. He's also broke. So other than the money he stole from me, so he would have to use his own money, which I just don't think he'd be willing to do, and he'd lose. But I'm well aware, and I was relentlessly told that in the court process when I had to present the 7 or 8 times. I was constantly reminded, do not. Be mindful, be mindful.
Be mindful. And I say be mindful, because it's the truth. So you can tell your story. And I'm an advocate for women telling their stories. I actually advocate for women to do so. And I also advocate for women to pursue criminal charges quite heavily. And that's
there's a line.
A decision that you need to make. And even when I talk to clients, they said, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, you know what I think you should do? I think you should pursue it criminally, but when you're ready.
Yes.
When the timing is right, when you are ready, and when you're doing it for the right reason, and when you have the support networks in place to do it. So when we talked about a little bit earlier, to just go backwards a little bit and talk about what it's like to go through the court system, I don't swear a lot on a podcast, so I'm going to do it now. It's fucking hard.
Get it, girl.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it was fine and it was rainbows and it was easy and I had the greatest time and I stayed in the moment and it was all good. No, it's hard. I'm sorry, but it is. Be ready for that. Be prepared for that. Be set up for that. Be willing to have things, I had the perpetrator in my case raise things that were criminal that he had done to me that I had elected not to pursue criminally because I didn't want that trauma of pursuing that criminally, which is why I can't discuss that as openly as what I would. But he raised it to abuse me through the system.
Wow.
And I did at one point go, and I actually said to
Wouldn't
the
that incriminate himself?
that was dealing, yes, but I think he knew that I had no intention of pursuing that because I didn't want that on public record. And I made a choice not to, and I still have made the right choice. I still won't go down that road. But I can say that he used that. It was actually used in the family court, but I also knew how tight the family court is, so it's on record. But I didn't want to go through cross-examination on these particular things because I knew that that would be the thing. So what I'm trying to say is there are elements of my case and elements of my story that I have not released. And will I? Maybe. Right now, I'm just saying that there is criminality that I could go back and pursue, and I've chosen not to at this time. Will I never pursue it? I will not say never.
There's never a full stop, I say.
I'm not saying never, but at this time for me, it's not something that I want to pursue, and more so out of protection for my children.
Yeah, I respect
and
that
that's
so much.
the decision, and that's where I came to that decision. But yeah, never. I'm not going to say never.
Yeah. We're sort of it's wild. It's 5 minutes before it's an hour, so I do want to go because I'm just conscious of your time. But I wanted to just sort of end on quickly going through my court process of what the getting the protection order looked like for women, just to walk them through that and how and why I had felt like it was still abuse. I'm going to quickly go through it. And you can then obviously, of course, keep unpacking yours as well. This was, what was mine? Magistrates. And then your criminal charge was,
I was indicted to the district court.
District courts, yeah.
Yeah.
But where did I want to, I will just never forget. This is what I wanted to start with. I will never ever forget on my very first hearing. So when I walked in, the police did the protection order. It got basically it was immediate. They were like, he can't come near you. However, it has to get approved by the courts because in Australia you are innocent until proven guilty. So it got to court pretty much almost the next day, within a couple of days. Yeah. I had my temporary protection order, but the court turns it from temporary to a final protection order. And so when I got into court a couple of days later, I was very vulnerable and very rare and still very traumatized and just the whole thing. I will never forget, female judge had my paperwork in front of her. It was my turn. I think I was the last for the day, so fairly, maybe she was over it. I don't speak because it wasn't my case and the police prosecution had it all. But I went in, she flicked through it and she sort of perplexed looks up, speaking to the police prosecution and said, "Why are we here?" And the police prosecution said, "Pardon your honour or whatever." And she said, "Well, she's in Gold Coast. She's here. He's in Perth, Western Australia. What's the point?" And I will never forget, my police prosecutor stood up. He was just seated and stood up and very slowly, verbatim, said, "With all due respect, Your Honour, there's a thing called an aeroplane. And if you can just read the order, you will see the threats that he's making to get on that aeroplane and to fly here and kill her." And she was like, "Oh, okay, well, da-da-da-da." And at that moment, boys and girls, I was like, I'm fucked. This system is fucked. Are you kidding? Because in the rest of the report, it was strangulation, which the police had told me was the most serious form because they said, just so everyone also knows, again, the police had taught me this, but the reason why they told me this, I don't know if this is good or bad, but that they'd taken my case so seriously from the jump was because there was strangulation.
Correct.
And they said whenever a woman presents with or person, but typically women, present with strangulation, we statistically know 100% of the time from documentation they are 2 incidences away from death. So he was like, you're now officially 2 incidences. Well, 1 because then the punch as well, right? So He was like, you're one incident away.
Yeah.
And that terrified me. So then the police prosecution saying that, Your Honour, there's a strangulation, there's this, there's that. And then he said, and then it got adjourned because he didn't have a lawyer. So Trent was via phone and video link, and he didn't have a lawyer. So she's like, well, you need a lawyer, Mr. Woolley. Like, you need to go get a lawyer because you need to present to court with a lawyer. And bang, straight away. So she's like, we have to adjourn it. So in that moment, he learned immediately, well, that's easy. If I just don't keep presenting with a lawyer, we can't do this. But basically it was also to say at your very first hearing, it was, do you accept this order or are you going to fight it? And he was like, I'm fighting it. I refuse it. And what ended up happening anyway, so like to cut a very long story short, 7 more hearings and mentions. I don't know the full difference, but it was just like, okay, it becomes a mention, I think, because we would present before court for him to present his evidence that I was a lying whore and it was all false, etc. And he then never had evidence against it, of course, and never had a lawyer. The judge kept for 7 more times, okay, and she was getting frustrated. You could tell she was very much getting frustrated. He also, in one of the mentions, like, just was Trent. He couldn't help it. Like, he was himself and, like, kind of narcissistically, like, manipulatively, like, said something to her and she just she blew up. Like, she was mad at him and she was like, don't you ever talk to me like that. And I was sitting there incredulous. I was like, can you not see that this is then what I dealt with for fucking 16 months? Anyway, what ended up occurring was, so because he wanted to fight it, it was going to go to trial. That's how it works, from my understanding. Anyway, that was my experience. So it was going to trial because he was contesting. He was contesting, thank you. So it was going to go to trial, but every time it was then the mention and the hearing and the mention and the hearing and the mention and the mention, he was presenting without a lawyer. And so they couldn't set the trial date at that time because he needed to present the evidence to the judge or to the courts. It then got to whenever it was, like August or September or October, whatever the last mention hearing was, and the magistrate did spit it finally because he presented again without a lawyer and basically said, enough, I'm done. That's it, game over. We're going to trial. You want the trial, Mr. Woolley, you're getting your trial. And the trial is set for whatever it was, like 7th of December. This is 2023. Yes. And then, 2023. And then the night before my trial, so the day before, or it was like the afternoon before, and I'd been told the police prosecution were incredible. They were like, you're going to get cross-examined. It's going to be traumatizing. Like, we're going to support you in that, but you have to be ready mentally, it was traumatizing to me because I'm like, I have to sit in court and be cross-examined by his lawyer about him punching me and him strangling me and him stealing from me. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, so that was traumatizing. But what had occurred, the police prosecutor called me the day before trial and I answered. I said, hello, Anna speaking. And he said, Anna, it's so-and-so from da-da-da. And I said, yes. And he said, it's over. It's over. You can't, he goes, I'm so happy to be making this call. He said, it's over. He said, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened because you deserve to know the truth. He said he finally got a lawyer. I've just gotten off the phone with that lawyer. And that lawyer has unequivocally told me, she has told him, you're done, buddy. Like, we are not, no one's going to represent you. It's why I think he actually then never presented to court. I think he was going to lawyers and they're like, you cannot contest this. Like, there is literal text evidence, phone evidence, photographic evidence, video evidence. Like, you cannot contest this. I think that's why inevitably he didn't have a lawyer. When it was game over, going to trial, he had to present or it was just going to go my way. His lawyer called my police prosecution and said, we're representing him, but we're not representing him. Like, basically, like,
not for a contested hearing.
We've told him that he's accepting this. Like, he has to sign this. So it's game over. Tell her that he's accepted. It's all done. It's ridiculous. Like, she basically had my back ultimately without having my back and was like, he's an idiot. And I won't say my police prosecutor's name. I don't know if I can, but he was unbelievable and he just told me the whole story. And I'm not even telling the whole story, but he basically like unpacked the whole conversation he had with his lawyer who had called the police prosecution to sort it out pre-court, just to say this
yeah.
is absolutely ridiculous. I'm so sorry she's been dragged through the courts several times. I've read the case. Game over.
Yeah.
He's not contesting this. He cannot. And I was like sobbing on the couch. I remember Ryan came over
Such a great result in the end.
put his arm around me and I know, because I avoided the trial, so this is why to put this in a bow and to go back to exactly how we started, which was you had said the court system is abusive because I was the day before trial to get my temporary protective order, permanent, a trial that, yes, I respect and understand innocent until proven guilty, but being told by police prosecution you were going to have to sit on that stand, get cross-examined, all your abuse, everything is going to get thrown at you. Any text message you sent, he's going to have had to have provided so much evidence. And this is why I fundamentally believe women don't pursue it criminally, because there's so much that happens behind the scenes.
That's a great point.
Right? And you go back and you let them creep back in, which I had myself done over and over and over again, that in cross-examination, luckily I had the support. I had finally had the mental wherewithal, but not before that moment. And
you just made the best point.
Right? And so it's like, I was like, I said to Ryan, because he was like, I am going to fucking be there. And I was like, and that was traumatizing, because I was like, baby, you're going to hear things that I'm ashamed of. Like, I'm going to get cross-examined of why did I go back and why did I say I love you and why, whatever my text to him had been, we're going to get dragged through court. And I was ready for it. I was like, bring it on, because I'm going to win. My protection order is going to get made permanent, because you cannot argue. There's no evidence that he didn't punch me, and there's no evidence that I strangled myself or, he did those things.
Yeah.
But all the messy in-between toxicity of our relationship was about to get like a spotlight shone on it in court, and it was terrifying to me. And I'm so grateful. Again, I'm not lucky. I'm grateful that the lawyer that he finally conned to basically represent him refused to represent him, and that's what ended up happening. So call before the 7th of the 12th, and it's over. It's done. Come to court tomorrow, seal this out, because all that's going to happen is his lawyer will call in or present. I think she called in. I think she was meant to present. She didn't even end up. No, she was going to present, and she didn't even end up presenting. They just called in, or it was just like game over. Like, we've signed it, it's done. And it was so quick. I went in. It was the same fucking judge I'd had the whole time, who was like not a great experience. And it was like, yeah, okay, not content, like signed, okay, order protection, stamped.
Yeah.
And my police prosecutor said, come in, because I want to be the one to hand you your protection order with the stamp and the signature, and then because you've done it. And that was my experience. And why that was important to share was, it was like, if I had to go through all of that to go from temporary to permanent, my hesitation straight away for criminal was, fuck, I'm not ready to do that again yet.
Yeah. The point you made that really stood out to me, and it happens all the time, the biggest concern that I hear is exactly what you just said. So that was a great illustration, is that women are usually so concerned about messages they sent or things that they did or the way that they behaved in the relationship, and they're worried that that's going to be under the spotlight. And what I can say is that I had the same feeling. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going to be brought out, and it's my whole life and all that kind of stuff. And the biggest reassurance that I can give women, you're not on trial. You're not on trial. So as hard as that is, just remember you've got to be okay. You've got to be ready to do it. But the consequences for you, there's no consequence for you at the end. You're the victim. You're the one that's being protected.
Yeah.
So it's so difficult, but to get your head around that is the little piece that you need to get over.
It's the biggest
for
piece.
you to go through the criminal system.
Yeah.
So that was really well illustrated.
I wanted to say, I've always
Really
wanted
well
to say it,
illustrated.
because I knew that it's my experience, and I know if it's my experience, then others are feeling it.
It's really common.
And Trent, threw that in my face often. Now, there's nothing that I did in the, like, I get it. It's more just the shame and embarrassment that, because he used to say, well, if I'm so bad, why did you come back?
Yeah.
Right? If I'm so bad, why did I? And even to the point where, after he had hit, etc., I had gone back to try to get my money. I was going to go steal the laptop, or I had a whole plan in place. My mum was involved, Katie and Luke were involved, Jimmy and Deb, my godparents were involved. I physically went back because he was then still communicating, and I was like, I'm going to get my $400,000 he stole my Ethereum.
Yeah,
so it was
huge.
a lot, and I couldn't let it go initially. There was also some incredible people in my life that were threatening very bad things that absolutely could have happened. And I will say it on the mic now because they didn't, but his life was in danger. There was no death threats, but it was like, we're going to go remove his fingers one by one until he gives us the code to his wallet so we can get your money back. And I was like, let me just try and like steal the laptop first, or let me try to just get it back. Because I was like, $400,000, I couldn't let it go.
It's a lot.
So even going back at that time, and then that's when it was November, December, I had gone back, and that was the plan. But I had so much protection and safety in place. It was still life-threatening, essentially, which it became, and I escaped again, right? But that all then became part of, which I didn't care, and I still don't care. I'm saying it on the mic. Like, I didn't care. I was like, well, I was trying to get my $400,000 back.
It's a lot of money.
It's an inordinate amount of money. And it did affect my life, but it wasn't my life savings. It was some of my investments, right? So I could let it go in the end, but that's life ending for many women, especially that amount. So, but the point is, there's shame, there's embarrassment, there's threats from him, but you came back, right? And then you feel like you're on trial because your relationship does get dragged up in court, and every text messages, like the police prosecution went through everything with me, and I was like, this is going to be the most horrifying, traumatizing, embarrassing time of my life. This was just for the protection order, you guys.
Yeah.
This was not the criminal charges that I still may pursue. This was just for the protection order.
It's disgusting.
So when I weigh up, so next time, please, I think the biggest thing I wanted people to understand with this episode, I get why haven't you charged him has come from when you ask a woman that has been through DV comes from. But take a breath before you ask it.
Yeah.
And just say, do you feel safe now? Like, how can I best support you? I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like, I hope you feel validated in your story. Are far better sentences than why haven't you charged him? Why is he not in jail? Well, I don't know, because the system's fucked and broken. Right?
Good response.
Yeah. I've given that about 1,700 times in my DMs
It's so true.
in the last 24 hours, because it's like, that question is so valid and I respect it. But the story behind it we've just told in the last hour is so convoluted and insidious and harrowing and traumatizing that to ask it is fair, but it's not fair.
And there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
So much more.
Where else can we go? Like what? Because I want to keep, if I'm going to tell my story and this is going to become part of something that I do want to help women unpack more, what else can help a woman?
Look, I think we talked about in the last episode as well, is that the most important thing in this space is that woman is empowered. So I never, ever, ever take decisions from anyone and say, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Never. And I mean, just on the phone this morning before I walked in here, I had a client on the phone going, what should I do? And I'm saying, I can't tell you what to do. I can give you all of this information about what will happen if you go to the police, what will happen if you pursue a private protection order, what will happen if you go down this avenue, and I'll be here walking that road with you every step of the way. But I can't tell you what to do. The most important thing that we can do is give the advice, be there at 5:00 in the morning when you get the phone call, or at midnight when you get the phone call, and provide the information and empower them to make the decision. Because you just touched on, and I think it's so, so important that you continue to say, not yet.
Yes.
That says to me that you're leaving it open,
Of course.
that you haven't got to that point of deciding to actually make that decision, to step into that police station, to take that action, which fires this gun to set this thing off. Because once you fire that, it kind of runs away without you.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to let people know once you've kind of fired it and you've gone, yeah, let's go, and you've pursued it, and it's with CIB, which is, you know, the detectives, and they've taken it over, and this happens and that happens, you lose control. So you are then part of the system. So the best thing that we can do is walk beside them, and I always say that. When a client contacts me and says, I heard about you from so-and-so or whatever, my role is to facilitate, walk beside and provide the information. My role is not to go, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. And I never, ever set a timeline or set in my calendar what I think should happen, despite having the opinion of what I think should happen. And I've already said to you, do I think you should? Absolutely, I think you should. But this is yours to own. It's not mine to own. I can't own that for you. I can't dictate. I can't tell you what timeline is the right timeline for you. All I can do is be on the end of the phone when you call me and go, hey, you know what? I'm actually ready to do this. Let's chat about it. And that's where I come in. And I always say to people, I'm walking with my clients, not in front of them, not behind them, and I'm certainly not dragging them along. We're walking it together.
That's so important, something you just said, though, from just a friend perspective as well, just if you're listening, is I'm just there when at the other end of the phone. And I'll get you to just remind everyone, because we've got a clip of it that I'm sharing. I think I shared it yesterday, actually. You on the first episode sharing with people how best to support someone they believe or know is in a DV relationship. But I actually I want to give a very real and raw example, and I'll protect everyone's identity. But I have a girlfriend that was in a DV relationship. He managed to get his way back in, said he'd changed, etc. I knew he hadn't. But you still always give them the benefit of the doubt. But I obviously see and know the signs now, which is withdrawal, hiding for me, because that's what I did when I disappeared for days offline, isolation. And so I noticed that had occurred again. Now, she went all the way back in, very publicly had shared this relationship again. She's not an influencer or anything like that. It's still but a dear friend. And I'm saying that as in, like, you know, it's not like 500,000 people saw it. Maybe her 1,700 friends saw it. But still, she very publicly declared he's changed. We're back. It's great. I celebrated her. I wasn't like, what are you doing? Oh, my God. I felt that. But I didn't do that. But then I noticed signs in the last 48 hours that she'd just disappeared again for the last 2 or 3 days, which is very unusual for her. So it was just an unusual pattern of behaviour. I know just being on the other end of the phone, and also I know calling the behaviour out in a very loving, safe way, because that was what helped me, my psychologist showing me the mirror. I just showed her the mirror and I said, hey, beautiful, please delete this regardless, you know, because I knew. But I said, I've just noticed that you've disappeared offline again. Hey, look, it could be nothing, but I know in my situation when that was occurring, there was always something bad that had happened. And I just want to let you know, whether you are so happy and in love and you've just disappeared in a bubble, I'm so fucking happy for you. Or if the abuse has started again, which I do believe it has, then I'm here for you. You do not need to be ashamed.
Perfect.
You do not need to be upset. You just need to tell the truth. Bang, she replied straight away and she said, the abuse has started again. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. I don't know what to do. I need help to get out. And I said, and help I will give. We're going to get you out.
Perfect.
Right? Now,
I
again,
got goosebumps.
yeah, same, right? This happened in the last 48 hours. And then another girlfriend has come to me and said, hey, oh my gosh, I've just had a disclosure from my friend. What do I do? And I said, you cannot intervene.
Very important.
And you cannot force her now. You need to be very careful even what you send her, because 9 times out of 10, an abuser has got access to everything.
Absolutely.
And I said, you just have to tell her that you are right here. You need to keep sending her a purple love heart. Just send something that it's like, I'm here. I'm right here. I'm just here the moment. So when anything occurs, the first person they know that is safe to go to is you. And that's a huge responsibility.
Massive.
But it helps.
What a beautiful illustration and a perfect real life example.
Yeah.
Like that, you've handled that absolutely beautifully. And we talked about that last episode. If you intervene, you can actually put them in more danger.
Yeah, which is
So
the
we've got to be
hardest
very
thing to
careful.
do.
We want to go call the police, get the police to go and drag that person out of there and put them in jail and, you know, she'll live happily ever after and she'll be safe again. It doesn't work like that in reality. And I mean, you've even talked about trying to get a protection order. And I've been there because I've actually had to go into safe housing twice where we've had to hide for weeks at a time in the last 5 years. The system does not work how we expect it to. Go and get the bad guy and lock him up. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful, beautiful real life illustration of how you can help.
And I was like, because I remember re-listening to our episode. I think the thing that I know the thing I actually got the most out of that entire episode was like you sharing with people. I'd lived it, but to hear you professionally just explain was everything to me. So I was like, well, isn't it wild that I can now actually give a real life example.
I actually love that.
Of in the last 48 hours. And Ryan was even like, what do we do? And I said, you can't do anything. And actually, I will say the further step I did take, I said, look, babe, if you're brave enough, which I know you are, you got to record. Because again, that's what helped me in my protection order anyway. And I said, he can't catch you because it's so unsafe. But in moments that you feel safe enough that you can record and send it to me, and then delete it. Just don't even bother keeping it on your phone because I've got a safe record of it. I've got several videos now already. So these are the things. Now I'm not going to I'm doing nothing with them until she's ready, right? And so, but you can be that friend. And I think the biggest thing for me is people don't give up on your friends. I'm just so grateful that no one gave up on me. I know it's the most hardest, most frustrating, most infuriating thing when you watch them go back. I've experienced it with this girlfriend, but it's their life and it's their trauma bond.
And they need to be empowered to do it themselves. Correct. Because we all know it takes an average of 7 times for a woman to leave.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you have to be really prepared for them to go back 7 times. And I'm not saying every woman, but that's the average is 7 times. Mine. So it's, you know, we know in the sector it's 7 times. So you need to be prepared to be there for the long game. It's going to be a long game. And if you support somebody and they get out the first time and they go back, and you support them again and they get out again and they go back, and you walk away from them and go, this is ridiculous, I don't want anything to do with you, because you can't do that because that's not how it's going to go.
Yeah. And I understand why people do that. Like, well, she's, you know, hopeless Kate. I mean, I watched my friend like sing this man's praises from the fucking rooftop for days on end and tell the world how he changed. And I just loved her for it. I loved her through that process, thinking and knowing the whole time he hasn't changed. God hasn't done shit for him. Like, right, I was like, no, he has not changed. But I'm not going to tell her that. I'm not going to hold that against her. And that's the thing. I feel like when you can be rock solid enough in yourself as a woman to know it's not her fault.
It's not.
It's just not her fault. But I get it when people get so frustrated. I've watched it with my own sister, right? They go back and back and back. I watched it with myself. And that's, anyway. So I think the takeaway that I want people to have is please know it's hard for a woman to go through the court process.
Yeah.
It is not as easy as, why has he not been charged? Why is he not in jail? There is an inordinate amount of reasons why. And how to love a friend through the process and be that safe place for them.
I love that.
Yeah. We will wrap it up. I want this to be a Joe Rogan. I'm like, I could just sit and chat for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I will leave it there. I hope this has served in some way. I hope that if you have a woman or a man in your life, but statistically we know that it is more women that unfortunately go through domestic violence, you are better educated, better informed. You can support her in better ways and not give up on her, I pray and I hope. And if this episode obviously has resonated with you, or you know someone in a DV relationship, this episode could be the mirror. You just don't know. This could be the mirror. So send it to her, send it to him, send it to whoever you think it could serve. Michelle, as always, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks for having me. I love it.
If you want to find Michelle, we always put all of her website, her Instagram, all the things in the show notes. So to find the show notes, if you don't know what that means, go into the episode, scroll, see the little blurb about the episode, and it's all in there. So you can find all of her links. I obviously, of course, always share it over on Anything Goes podcast Instagram, so you can find her on Instagram there. And until next time, stay wild. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Anything Goes. And if today's episode gave you maybe a new perspective, a little bit of a laugh, you learned something new, or just loved our trip to Taboo Town if we went there, it would honestly mean the world to me if you could leave me some love with writing a review and sharing this episode to your socials. You have no idea how much that helps my little podcast get out in the world. If you love what you gain from these conversations weekly with me as well and want more than just listening in, come and join my inner circle. It's my monthly mastermind where for just $47 a month, the real magic happens. You get me up close, no filter, live coaching. And if you get what you get from this free podcast, imagine what you get in a paid container. Links are in the show notes, friends. And until next time, stay wild.